Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to try to install a speaker inside my ZX Spectrum Next computer. I found some instructions online that explain how to do that. Now, I'm not sure how well it's going to work, and to be honest, I'm not really expecting fantastic results. I've heard that internal speakers installed into the Speccy Next have very low volume, but that's okay for me. I just basically want some sort of sound to come out of it without having to go to the trouble of always connecting an external speaker to hear any sound whatsoever. So even if it just produces some low volume clicks and menu sounds and maybe some beeper sounds, maybe AY sounds, I'm not sure exactly what it can do, then I think that'll be good enough for me. Now I have two different speakers that I want to try, and they are right here. One is a piezo element that has no housing around it. It's just the raw piezo element, and I'll try that and see how it works. As well as I have another piezo element that is actually housed inside an enclosure. So I don't know if either one of these different piezo elements will produce any sound or not, and if they do, if they're going to be even usable, but I'm going to give it a try and see how it works. So let's go ahead and switch over the screen now, and we'll take a look at the online instructions for how to install these speakers. So stick around and we'll get started right now. Alright, so here we are on the SpecNext website. This is wiki.specnext.dev/beeper_hardware. So here it tells you how to install a speaker inside of the Spectrum Next. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and we'll read through it. Beeper hardware. The Spectrum Next can create sound using TurboSound Next 3 AY3 8912 sound chips, controlled by the basic play keyword, and the signal from these goes into or goes to the HDMI port or the ear socket. Additionally, an internal speaker can be connected which will generate sound in the same manner as the original 48K Spectrum, controlled via the beep keyword, which will also output via HDMI ear. Okay, so there is an HDMI output video port on the ZX Spectrum Next that also can carry sound, as well as there's an audio output jack on the back of the ZX Spectrum Next. But what we're going to look at today is doing the internal speaker option. And here is where it talks about that. It says a speaker attaches to connector J3 on the circuit board, which we'll take a look at later, and requires a 2.54 millimeter pitch, 4-way, 1-row through-hole pin header. If that all sounds a bit confusing, don't worry about it. I'm not even going to be using a header. I'm just going to solder directly to the pins on the circuit board, although I could use a header if I wanted to. If you're fitting the board inside an original rubber key case, which I'm not, you'll probably need a right-angled connector due to the height required. I think I would probably use a right-angled connector anyway, but in this case, like I mentioned, I'm not even using a header to begin with. And here it says the buzzer should be approximately 1 inch diameter with impedance of 16 ohms, which should equate to a basic PC BIOS piezo type speaker. J3 pins 1 and 2 are negative, pins 3 and 4 are positive. So before I go ahead and install this, I should mention that I'm not an expert on installing this device in the Speccy Next, and so I'm not advising you to do it. I'm not advising you how to do it, and I'm just doing this for myself, and hopefully I don't blow up my computer. So if you do decide to do this modification for yourself, then you should do your own research and make sure that you're confident in what you're doing. So let's go ahead and see what else it says here. It says increasing speaker volume. This modification only works on Kickstarter 1 issue 2B Next, and that's what I'm using. I have a Kickstarter 1 version Speccy Next. It is not for Kickstarter 2 issue 4 boards. Okay, so here we have instructions on how to make the speaker louder. It suggests to use an integrated amplifier speaker board such as this Adafruit Stemma speaker, and I actually do have one of these on order as well, just to try it out. And so when that comes, I'll see how that works as well compared to the methods that I'm doing today. But I do want to jump down here to the bottom paragraph where it says turn on your Next while holding down space to enter the TBB Blue Boot ROM menu. Here, toggle beeper to int, which I presume stands for internal, to increase its volume to roughly match the original ZX Spectrum for classic 1648K beeper games. AY and DAC sound will not play through the internal speaker. So I'm not going to be installing this amplified speaker device here. I'm going to be installing the two piezo type element speakers that I showed you at the beginning of this video. So let's go ahead now and start the installation. Now I'm not going to be showing you how to remove the screws and disassemble the enclosure for the ZX Spectrum Next. It's pretty self-explanatory, and there's lots of other videos on YouTube you've probably already watched. And if you haven't watched them, you can probably figure it out pretty easily because there's only 6 screws to take out from the bottom of the case. And if you're still having trouble figuring it out, you can go to the Spec Next website, which I have right here on the screen, where it shows you how to disassemble your ZX Spectrum Next. And here it shows you the case and how to disassemble it, what the circuit boards look like inside. This is probably the Kickstarter 1 version, I'm guessing. And I'm just going to scroll down here to this picture at the bottom right here that shows us the area where the speaker will be installed. And I'll zoom in a bit here. So right here you can see connector J3 is right here, and here are some holes cut into the PC board for the speaker sound to go through. This is where you would mount the speaker physically. And if we take a look at the instructions again, right here it says J3 pins 1 and 2 are negative, pins 3 and 4 are positive. So we want to connect the positive lead of the speaker to pins 3 or 4 and the negative lead to pin 1 or 2. Now unfortunately, if we go back to our image of the PC board here, there is no polarity marking on this J3 connector as far as I can see. Usually there would be an indicator on one end or the other, or one of these pads would be square to indicate pin 1, but in this case all of the holes are actually round, so I have no way of knowing which is actually pin 1. So I can always try it both ways and just see which way works better, or if it even makes a difference. I doubt it even makes a difference for a speaker, but we're going to go ahead and try connecting it up and we'll see how it works, or if it works. Alright, so I tried installing 2 different speaker elements into the Speccy Next. One was this raw piezo element, and when I installed this I couldn't hear any sound whatsoever. And the other one I installed was this enclosed piezo element, and this one did produce some sound, but it was barely audible. I had to literally put my ear right up to the element to be able to hear anything, but it was producing some sound. But neither one of these solutions worked well enough, and so what I want to try now is I ordered an amplified version of a speaker, which hopefully is what is inside this package. I'm expecting that's what it is. So I'm going to try installing an amplified version of a speaker, and we'll see how that goes. So let's go ahead and open this up and see what we have. Okay, this is called a Stemma speaker and audio amplifier. So let's go ahead and open it up and take a look. So it's a little circuit board that has a speaker on it and a built-in amplifier. Okay, so it's actually 2 parts here. It looks like there's a circuit board and an external speaker that is wired on there. And here are the labels on the back of the PC board. There's a connection for ground, power, and signal. Now there's also a connector at the top of the board here, which could be used to connect these signals as well. So you have an option whether you want to connect using this connector, or if you want to use these pads on the edge of the board. I'm going to be using the pads on the edge of the board since I don't have a wire with a connector that plugs into this socket, and I'm just going to solder them right onto these pads. So now I'm going to open up my Speccy Next again and try to install this device and see if it works any better than the other non-amplified versions of piezo elements I tried previously. So stick around and I'll try that right now. So here I am on the wiki.specnext.dev website, and if I scroll down here to hardware expansion, there is a selection here labeled beeper. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And we took a look at this earlier, but I'm just going to refresh my memory now how to hook up this amplified version of the speaker, which you can see. And let's just read the caption here first. Here it says, an Adafruit Stemma speaker with integrated amplifier connected to the Spectrum Next Issue 2B motherboard and held in place inside the case with self-adhesive Velcro strips. Cable colors do not reflect ground and VCC correctly, but the cable sleeves do. And then here it describes how to connect the speaker internally, because this device here, since it's amplified, it requires power, so it requires ground and VCC input voltage, and here is where you would connect this particular device. And then it tells you that the signal input goes to J3 pin 4 next to the speaker holes on the next PCB. So this black sleeve, which is on the red wire, must go to ground, which looks like this bottom right pin here, and this red sleeve, which is on the black wire, must be plus VCC, which goes to the second pin, and then this yellow wire would be the signal, which goes to over here, the pin closest to these holes for the speaker. So I'm going to go ahead and solder this on now. I'm not going to bother videotaping the soldering process. I think you can all figure out how to solder wires onto a board. So I'll come back after I have it all soldered up and we'll test it out. So here we have the wires all connected now. Here is the speaker down here, and it is connected using 3 wires. The ground wire, which is black, the positive voltage, which is red, and then the signal wire, which is yellow, and they're just connected to these 3 pads on this module. So they go up through this ribbon cable here, and then the ground wire connects to this lower right pin. The positive voltage connects to the one just above it, and then the signal wire up here connects to the 4th pin of this connector up here. So there we go. It should be all ready to try out now. So let's go ahead and see if it works. So here I have the speaker just run outside of my Speccy Next temporarily so we can test it. And I have my microphone here, which I'll put close to the speaker while we run some tests, and we'll see how it works. Okay, so it's not incredibly loud, but I can hear it. Now I'm going to go into the Speccy Next settings that was suggested in the instructions and see if I can change the beeper setting to make it a bit louder. So here if we go into the settings, so here in the settings, I think if you go down here to beeper and you change this to internal like that instead of all, that should amplify the sound of an internal speaker. So let's go ahead and give this a try now. I can already tell that the menu selection tick noise is louder than it used to be. I'll just let you hear it here. So now let's go ahead and go back into Next Basic, and we will try that beep command again. Oh, that's a lot louder now. I'm pretty sure you can hear that. Probably even without putting the mic close to the speaker, you can probably hear it. Okay, so now let's try some other sounds. I'll just leave the mic here on the mat close to the speaker, and we'll see what else we can play with. We'll go into demos here, and here's one called AKY Songs. Let's see if there's any music in there. V8 AKY, not sure what that is. Let's give it a try. Okay, so I'm guessing this is playing music through the AY sound chip. So I'll connect the external speaker and we'll just see if this is actually making some sound. Yep, so there you can hear that this is actually AY music being played. So I think AY music is not coming out of the internal speaker now because maybe we changed that setting to internal speaker. So let me try changing that setting back, and we'll try this demo again, and we'll see if AY sound normally comes out of the internal speaker port. I'll go back down here to beeper, and I'll change this to beeper all. Okay. So I can hear it, but it is very low. I'll let you listen to it. So you may or may not be able to hear that, but it's extremely low. So I don't think we're going to be getting particularly loud AY sound coming out of this internal speaker. So let's try some beeper sounds again, but with a different program. So I'm going to re-enable the beeper or beeper internal. Okay. So there is sound coming. That music is coming from the external speaker, but it's not coming from the internal speaker that I just installed. Okay, so it looks like we don't get AY sound through the internal speaker when we have that internal beeper selection enabled. So let's try maybe a 48K game that should probably use beeper sounds, and we'll see how that works. So I do hear sound effects coming through the speaker when I press a key. Okay. Yep. So I'm not sure how to play, but I do hear sound effects. Okay. Okay, so I hear that sound. So I just created a quick little program here that's going to do some random beeps, and we can at least verify that we can hear beeping through this speaker. So let's go ahead and run this program. So I decided to play my own game, Brickz, because I know it does have beeper sound effects in it, which we can at least try out. So let's go ahead and play a level of Brickz. So I can hear the screen being drawn. Press L to launch the ball. I can hear the sound effects. They're quite low, but I can hear them. I'll press space to launch a bomb, or detonate a bomb, I should say. So I can hear beeper sound effects, and it's not incredibly loud, but it certainly serves the purpose for which I wanted. Just be able to hear something, some sound effects, some beeper music. It doesn't look like I'll be able to listen to AY sound effects, but that's okay. It's better than nothing. So at least now I have some beeper sounds that I can listen to without having to connect up an external speaker to my system. Alright, so it turns out we're not quite done with this video just yet, because I realized after I put my Specky Next back together that there's something I forgot, which is if we take a look at the instructions right here below the picture of the installation, there is a note that says to turn the potentiometer on the speaker board all the way up. So there is actually a potentiometer on that amplified speaker board inside my Specky Next, and it is right here. You can see there is a little potentiometer right here. So we want to go ahead and turn that all the way to the right to make the volume as loud as possible. So I have the case open on my Specky Next, and remember I have that internal speaker setting, that beeper setting, set to internal mode instead of all mode, so that will amplify the beeper sound in itself. So now what I want to do is try turning that potentiometer all the way up on that speaker board to see, first of all, how it affects the beeper sound when the beeper setting is in the internal mode. Okay, the music is quite loud, or the beeping is quite loud, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that potentiometer to try to make it even louder. And you can probably hear it has gotten louder, and I'll just stop it for now. So turning that potentiometer did actually increase the volume coming out of that beeper by quite a bit. I would say it probably increased it just from my ear, maybe about 50%. So now what I want to do is try changing that beeper setting in the Speccy Next configuration menu to the all setting, which should allow us to play both beeper and AY sound through this internal speaker, and we'll see if it affects that sound as well, or if it has any effect on the AY sound in addition to the beeper sounds. I don't know, but we'll go ahead and give that a try. So here we are booting up the Speccy Next. I'll go into the configuration menu here, and I will change the beeper setting from internal to all, and that should allow us to play AY sound through the internal speaker now as well, but the beeper sound should be lower volume. Okay, so now I can definitely hear the sound louder than it was before. Alright, so Warhawk is now playing. I'm not sure if you can hear the sound or not, the music I should say. But this is the AY music playing from the Warhawk game through the internal speaker on the Speccy Next with obviously the case open. And I'll just move the mic a little closer so you can hear it playing just in case it's not too audible. To me, I can hear it pretty well, but let's just hear what it sounds like with the mic a bit closer. There, so I'm pretty sure you probably heard that. Now what I'm going to do is screw the case back together, and we'll see how loud it is if I can still hear this AY sound with the case all reassembled. Alright, my Speccy Next is all reassembled now. Let's go ahead and try that Warhawk game again and see how it sounds. Alright, so the Warhawk game is playing now, and the AY sound music is playing. And you probably can't hear it, but I can just barely hear it. So in a quiet environment, like I'm in right now, I can hear it and I can tell that it's playing. I'll just move the mic a little closer to the speaker or to the unit. So you may be able to hear the music playing now. And it is very low, but I can hear it. So I would say that's a pretty successful modification. I can hear now both beeper and AY sound through the internal speaker of the Speccy Next. And if I want to hear them louder, I can simply connect an external speaker. So now at least I have an option. I don't have to always connect an external speaker if I just want to be able to hear some sound is playing. And I can certainly hear it in a very low volume environment, which I'm in now. So I think this is a successful installation as far as I'm concerned. And we do have the option to change that internal beeper setting in the Speccy Next menu if we want to be able to hear that beeper sounds even louder. So I think that's going to wrap it up for today. I'm pretty pleased with this installation. It was a very easy install, and I think it went well. So that's it for today. As always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, and take care. Bye for now.